Have the Bears turned the corner? Will the Bears make the playoffs? Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Next Fan Up. Today we are continuing our NFL offseason breakdown and prediction series. And on today's video, we will be taking a look at the Chicago Bears, what they've done in the offseason, in free agency, with their draft, and then we'll walk through game by game with our predictions. Before we dive into the offseason for the Bears, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the Florida Panthers, who a short time ago won the Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals to secure their first Stanley Cup for the franchise. If you were watching this series, you saw that it started 3-0 for Florida. They were, the defense was playing outstanding. It looked like it was going to be a sweep. Oilers turned it around over the next three games. Connor McDavid was phenomenal in those three games, able to force the Game 7. Connor McDavid actually went on to win the Conn Smythe Trophy, which is, like the MVP for the finals, something like that. Only the second non-goalie to win the Conn Smythe in a losing effort. So good for him. I mean, I'm sure he would have rather had the Stanley Cup, though. The Florida defense really found itself again tonight. Sergei Bobrovsky looked phenomenal again tonight. He looked like the goalie we had seen most of the playoffs. So I'm from the South, so not a huge hockey fan. But man, do I enjoy the Stanley Cup Finals? It looked like it was a fantastic setting. The fans were going out of their mind. They had to have a great time. So congratulations to the Florida Panthers on their Stanley Cup win. All right, so before we jump into the video, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and leave us a comment below. All right, with all that said, let's get into this offseason breakdown for the Bears. So let's start with the key pickups for the Chicago Bears this offseason, and they have had a very busy offseason. We're going to start with Shane Waldron, the OC. There was a lot of turnover on the coaching roster this year, but we're only going to talk about the OC for right now. Shane Waldron, he was brought in after they fired Luke Getsy last year. Luke Getsy, that offense wasn't doing much anything, so I can see why they let him go. Waldron was the OC for the Seattle Seahawks last season. Last couple seasons, he was there, helping with Geno Smith and that turnaround. He's another Sean McVay disciple. So with a new OC in the building, what's the offense going to look like next year? Well, let's look at some of the new toys he's going to have to work with. Let's start with Keenan Allen. Big name receiver. We know Keenan Allen's been putting up big seasons down in not San Diego anymore, and down in LA Chargers. So he's been a number one option for Justin Herbert for the Chargers since he was drafted. Has battled some injuries, including a hamstring injury that wrecked my fantasy football team one year, but we'll move on. So going to be another good target to go alongside DJ Moore, who they brought in last season from the trade with Carolina to help bring the number one draft pick in. So Keenan Allen alongside DJ Moore, that looks pretty good to start with. So let's see what else they brought in. So DeAndre Swift, running back, he actually signed a 3-year, $24.5 million deal, included $15.3 million guaranteed, which is a top market deal, more or less, for running backs these days. So good for him for getting paid. Swift is coming off his best statistical year after rushing for more than 1,000 yards last season while playing in 16 games last year. Waldron seems to like to go with a workhorse back. At least he did last year with Kenneth Walker. So, if you're thinking about fantasy, Swift may be a good option for you. You might be able to sneak him in the late second, maybe even to the third round, depending on your setup. All right, let's look at, keep moving on. Gerald Everett signed a 2-year deal. This OC also likes to use 12 personnel. Last year with Seattle, he actually had the 4th highest rate of using 2 tight end sets. So Gerald Everett comes in to work alongside Cole Kmet. So you got 2 pass catchers. Gerald Everett is not known, necessarily as a blocking tight end, but I think the two of them together, I think they'll be okay. But two good pass catchers. Gonna be interested to see how they use those. Kevin Byard is a safety. He's a 2-time All-Pro. He signed a 2-year deal to replace Eddie Jackson. Over his career, Byard has shown to be better in coverage and against the run than Jackson. So this should be an upgrade at that position. They also brought in Jonathan Owens. He's also a safety. This is added depth to that secondary. He played around 70% of defensive snaps for Green Bay this past season. So definitely adding some depth to that secondary. He's also known for being married to probably the best gymnast in our generation, Simone Biles, who will be competing in the Summer Olympics coming up soon. I'm probably going to butcher his name. Amen Agbangbimiga. He's a linebacker they added for depth at the linebacker room, but he's more likely to be used on the field on special teams. He was a pretty big special teams contributor for the Chargers last year, so that's probably going to be where he sees the field most this upcoming year. Coleman Shelton. He's a center. He probably can play interior lineman also. He was brought in to compete for the starting center spot. He's a former Rams lineman, played over 100 snaps at center, so he's probably got a good chance of getting that center spot this year. He started for the Rams the last 2 seasons, so he's definitely going to be vying for that spot. Ryan Bates. He's also center. Was also brought in to compete for the starting center position, but again, he could also be used to fortify the interior of that O-line. Matt Pryor, O-line. Another offensive lineman brought in to add depth to the room. He's kind of a journeyman. He has played for the Eagles, the Colts, and the 49ers since being a 6th-round draft pick back in 2018, but you can never have enough of those big guys. A couple of re-signs. The biggest being Jalen Johnson. He's a cornerback, signed a 4-year deal worth $76 million with over $54 million guaranteed. He's locking up their top corner spot for the next several years. Dante Pettis, he's a wide receiver. He signed a 1-year deal. He's likely just added for wide receiver depth. He could possibly be a special teamer. I don't see him seeing the field over Keenan Allen or DJ Moore. Also re-signed their longest tenured player, long snapper Patrick Scales. He signed a 1-year contract. Not a whole lot to see here other than you keep continuity on the special teams. So continuity is always a good thing. Let's discuss some of the key losses now. So as we mentioned, with the addition of Byard, the Bears released safety Eddie Jackson, who they had made the highest paid safety in the league a couple years ago. I think this is likely cap related. As we mentioned, they believe Byard is better in coverage and in the run game, so they feel they're getting an upgrade by also saving cap space. They also let go of O-line Cody Whitehair. Not a whole lot to talk about here. Again, I think this is just some cap movement. All right, so the big name that was moved was Justin Fields. He was traded to the Steelers. No surprise other than him ending up at the Steelers. I think everyone knew he was probably going to get moved. They were definitely going to pick Caleb Williams in the draft, and we'll get to him in a minute. Justin Fields should be in a quarterback competition with Russell Wilson. Even if he does not win this battle initially, I feel he has a good chance to end up being the starter later in the year and could be a long-term starter for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, who managed to make the playoffs in spite of having abysmal quarterback play last year. Okay, let's talk about the draft. So the Bears only had 5 draft picks this year, but they got that number 1 pick because of the trade they had made the previous year with Carolina. So this is actually Carolina's pick that they're making at number 1. And no surprise, they went with Caleb Williams, the Heisman Trophy winner from 2022. He is great at making off-platform throws. Everyone's seen him in college put up gaudy numbers. I'm a little hesitant when it comes to Lincoln Riley quarterbacks. I think they've always been good at hitting open receivers, but Riley does a great job at scheming guys open in college, and I just don't see those guys break open that frequent in the NFL. So we'll see how he does with the tight window throws. We know he's super athletic, got an arm. Let's look at his numbers real quick. So his Heisman season, he threw for 4,500 yards on 66% completion, 42 touchdowns and 5 picks. So that's fantastic. I think we can see why he won the Heisman that year. His 23 season, they regressed a little bit to the mean, 3,600 yards on 68% completion. So his completion percentage actually went up, which is what you want to see. And 30 touchdowns to 5 picks. So still a good year. The team was not as good, but the defense was actually absolutely atrocious last year, and he still had a good season. Going to be interested to see how it translates to the NFL, but we just got to wait and see. All right, so with their second pick, they took wide receiver Rome Odunze out of Washington. He played a couple years. He played 4 years at Washington. He redshirted his first year, but we're going to focus on his last 2 years, the 22 and the 23 season. So in 22, he had 75 receptions for over 1,100 yards with an average of 15 yards per catch and 7 touchdowns, which is already a pretty good year. In 23, he had over 1,600 yards receiving and 13 touchdowns. So very much a possession receiver. If you watched him against Texas, you saw him making some great catches in that game. Not a surprise they picked him here. So again, that's going to be a big addition to that room when you add Odunze alongside DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. With their third pick, they picked a lineman out of Yale, Kyron Amigadici. And if I butchered that, I apologize, sir. But he's an O lineman out of Yale. I don't have a lot of information on him other than he's got to be a smart guy if he played for Yale. He's a big guy. I think he's like 6'6", about 320. We'll see if he's got the feet and the hands to make it at the NFL level. But again, some more O-line depth there. Torrey Taylor, this is an interesting one. So with their fourth pick, they picked Torrey Taylor, who's a punter out of Iowa. Now, he was the 2023 Ray Guy Award winner, averaging 48 yards a punt. So he's a pretty good punter, but still, using a draft pick on a punter, you don't see that a whole lot, especially in the mid rounds. He's the highest drafted punter since 2019, so I think they think they've got something there. We'll see how that works out. And then their fifth pick, they went with Austin Booker. He's a D lineman out of Kansas. He was a first team All Big 12, named Big 12 Newcomer of the Year. He had 12 tackles for loss and two fumbles with 8 sacks last year. And he performed pretty well at the combine. So we'll see what right now I think he's going to be. I don't think he's going to see a lot of the field this year, but we'll see what happens with him. And that's their draft. So 5 picks. Obviously, the two key guys there are Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. They took in the first round. Two start-ready players. Obviously Caleb's going to get to go. Rome's probably going to get a lot of play this year. I'm going to be interested to see how these rookies play out. Okay, so you can see the Bears front office has been super busy this offseason. A lot of changes to the coaching staff, several free agent pickups, and some big names at the top of the draft. What will the immediate impact be from all of these changes? Let's get into the game-by-game predictions. All right, week 1, Tennessee Titans. Tennessee has a new head coach. They let go of Mike Vrabel at the end of last season. They also moved on from Derrick Henry. I think the main thing that gives me pause if I'm a Titans fan is the QB. As a Georgia fan, I watch a lot of SEC football, and I did not see Will Levis do anything at Kentucky. So until he proves me wrong, it will be hard for me to pick him in games that I think he will need to be a difference maker. So for that reason, we're going to go with the Bears in week 1. Week 2, at Houston. Houston has made a lot of strides last year on both offense and defense. Stroud looks to be the real deal, and with the addition of Stephon Diggs, I think the offense is going to give teams some fits. As we discussed earlier, the Bears are breaking in several new additions in the secondary, and I think there's going to be a learning curve before they gel back there, so I think Stroud takes advantage of this early in the season, and I think the Bears are going to take a L on this one at Houston. Week 3, at Indy. I haven't done any breakdown yet on Indy. I don't know a whole lot about what's going on with Indy, but I cannot think of any major moves that they've made this offseason. Anthony Richardson is coming off a shoulder injury that ended his season last year, and Gardner Minshew has moved on to Las Vegas. Anthony Richardson did not impress me while at Florida, and oftentimes looked to get rattled pretty quickly. Had happy feet. So while his athleticism was off the charts, I don't know if he has the experience or has learned to read a complex defensive scheme yet. He's going to see a lot of complex defenses in the NFL. Is he going to be able to identify those quickly? Don't know yet. So until I see it happen, I'm not going to go with that. So I believe that the Bears are going to go in Indy and get the win here. Week 4, Los Angeles Rams. So I think this could be a relatively high-scoring game, and a turnover at a costly point in the game is likely to be the difference. And with that said, I'll go with the experience here. And on the side, and I'll fall on the side of Matthew Stafford here. He's been in and played in a lot of big games, so I think the Rams hold on to win a close one here. Week 5, Carolina Panthers. Okay, so I have almost no confidence at all in the Panthers. And I think it is going to be another ugly season for them. I think this will be the game that the management group in Carolina may be second-guessing themselves on some of the moves they made the last couple of years. I think DJ Moore is going to be motivated here to, some get back. I mean, I think he left on relatively good terms, but, you always want to get back at the team you played for previous. So I think between Moore and Williams, I think they're going to get this done. I just wonder how Carolina's going to feel watching what was their first-round pick start against them. So we're going to see. I think Carolina's going to take the L here. I got the Bears winning by double digits. So week 6, they got the Jags at home. So this is a game where you would think Trevor Lawrence should have the advantage over Williams, at least in the experience, side. I have not been impressed by Lawrence so far in his NFL career. I did a video about that not too long ago. He's got some some issues going on, coaching carousel, first year of Urban Meyer bad. But either way, I don't have a lot of trust in Lawrence right now. He's been a turnover machine, averaging 20 turnovers per year so far, and the Bears' defense is predicated on creating turnovers. I think Lawrence throws a crucial pick down the stretch that dooms the Jags, and I think the Bears take this one. Week 7, they got the bye week. I don't know how I feel about it. If I'm a Bears fan, that's a little early in the season. Probably would like to have that more around the 10-11 week, but it is what it is. Week 8 at the Commanders. So with a week to rest up and an extra week to prepare, I think the Bears go into Washington and beat a Commanders team that I don't think is going to be very good this year. Jaden Daniels was electric last year in college, but he is on the smaller side. I worry about the pounding he may take behind that O-line. And I think he will struggle this year adjusting to the speed of the NFL, where he may not always be the fastest or the most athletic guy on the field like he was most Saturdays last season. So I think the Bears get this done on the road. So week 9 at Arizona. I know Arizona pulled off a couple wins last year that kind of shocked some people, but Arizona is another bottom feeder last season with a coaching change and a quarterback with a lot of questions around him. I just think Chicago is a few steps ahead of Arizona at this point, and I think the Bears get it done in the desert. So week 10, the Patriots come to Chicago. This game looks like the classic trap game to me. I don't think the Patriots will be very good this year. I think Gerard Mayo has got a lot of work in front of him, and I don't think they know what they're doing at the quarterback position. To me, Drake May has Mitchell Trubisky written all over him. However, Mayo spent a lot of years working with Bill Belichick, and I think he will be able to give Caleb some looks on the defensive side that he hasn't seen before and force him into in a few mistakes. And I think the Pats come into Chicago and pull the upset. Week 11, Green Bay. The Green Bay Packers come to Chicago. So after the Patriots came in and put an end to what was their 4-game winning streak, I think that brings them back down to earth. And couple that with this being one of the oldest rivalry in the NFL, I think the Bears are super focused here. I think they get it done in what could be a glimpse of what we could see as great quarterback rivalry over the next 10 plus years between Williams and Love. But we're going to give this one to the Bears at home. Week 12, the Vikings come calling. I think the Vikings are likely to be the worst team in the division. Granted, that is going to be a tough division this year. I think they have a good coach, but the loss of Kirk Cousins, who had been a very steady hand there at the quarterback position over the last several years, is going to make this year kind of a disaster, I think. When your options are Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy, I think you're going to be in trouble. I see the Bears getting it done here at home, and by the end of Week 12, I have the Bears 8-3, which would already be surpassing their win total for 2023. All right, so Week 13, this is a Thursday night game at Detroit. And while I do think Detroit could regress a bit this year, I mean it's hard to get to a conference championship game, so I think they're likely to have some regression. And I just seem to have some, and they had some good mojo last year too. I mean, sometimes it's just luck that to get you some places, and I think they had kind of that mojo last year, and I don't know if they're going to have that. So I think there's going to be some regression to the mean on the Detroit side. However, with all that said, this being a short week and the Bears having to go on the road, I'm definitely leaning towards the Lions here. So I think the Bears take the L on the road at Detroit. Then Week 14, you're at San Francisco. And I think this is a brutal two-game road stretch for anybody, even with a couple of extra days to prepare for this one coming off that short week. Now they get a little extra days. I don't think the Bears are ready to compete with the likes of the Niners. I think the Niners probably win this by 2 scores. And then Week 15, now you've got a Monday night at Minnesota. Coming off those two rough road games, I think the Bears get the opportunity to right the ship here. I think they get a win for all the same reasons I had already mentioned about the Vikings, plus an added day of rest with this being on a Monday night. So I think the Bears get this win here. Week 16, they've got the Lions at home. With this game likely being a key game to determine who wins the division, I think experience matters. And Goff has played a lot of big games at this point in his career. And if he has a relatively clean pocket, he can pick you apart. And I don't know if the Bears have the dudes in the front 7 to be able to affect Goff enough. I think the Lions pull out a win here, but I expect this to be a tight one. Week 17, this is also a Thursday night game. We got Seattle coming to Chicago. I like the Bears to win at home here on the short week, with Seattle having to be the one to go on the road. And I think it's likely Seattle has already been eliminated from playoff contention, as I don't see them being a contender this year. And I think the Bears just have a lot more to play, so I have the Bears winning at home. And then Week 18, at the Packers. So I didn't get a chance to look this up, but I'd be interested to know how rookie quarterbacks that have played their collegiate ball in a warm climate perform in their first trip to the frozen tundra that is Green Bay, Wisconsin in January. I think this is going to be a hard ask for your rookie to go on the road in what will likely be a playoff atmosphere. I feel while Love doesn't have a whole lot more experience than Williams, he does have a playoff victory, so he does have some more experience than Caleb in these bigger games, and definitely more in cold weather games. So I like the Packers to win this one at home, so the Bears are going to take the L here. So that's going to bring the Bears to a 10-7 record, which is a 3-game improvement over last year, and this likely gets them a wild card spot in my opinion. I think is missing from Caleb Williams' resume is playing in big games. He was great individually in college, won a Heisman, but his team around him has not been as good. And he's never really had a chance to play in a huge game. I mean, the Pac-12 championship was probably the biggest game that I can recall, and he was actually battling injury in that game and didn't play poorly, but the team lost in ugly fashion. So he never had a chance to play in the CFP or any other really huge games, in my opinion. Does this matter? I don't know, maybe not. But it will be interesting to see how he deals with the speed of the NFL, having to quickly break down more complex defenses, and the huge expectations that go with being the number 1 overall pick. Thanks for sticking with us to the end. Be on the lookout for the next offseason breakdown and prediction video. What team would you like to see us do next? Do you disagree with my predictions? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one.